What's up, everyone? Welcome to Power Play with CJ. I just want to focus in on what I would do to rebuild the Edmonton Oilers. Obviously, the team is in complete disarray. They've been an absolute bastion of mediocrity, to say the very least, since their surprising run on the Stanley Cup Finals in 2006. 8 years later, the team's a complete mess. They've tried two separate rebuilding processes. One of them around the young players, such as Tom Gilbert, Sam Gagne, and Cogliano. And then the second rebuild around Taylor Hall, around Nugent-Hopkins, Neil Yakupov, Jordan Eberle. And neither one's worked out too great because the Oilers have not improved at all. They're a complete joke of a franchise. And, they shouldn't have fired Kruger. I thought he was a pretty good coach. I mean, I thought they were better last year than they had been in the past. And, Dallas Higgins is in way over his head. I know someone suggested me bringing in Guy Boucher. My thing of it is, so you're going to fire a coach, 3 years in a row? What does that get you? You need consistency. So I might as well bring in a guy like Boucher, Kevin Dineen, and a guy like that. And then in terms of the draft, I'd be willing to package pretty much, anyone on this team, including Nugent-Hopkins. I'd try to hold on to Hall. I like Hall. Hall's the guy I'd want to build around. But Nugent-Hopkins, Eberle, Yakupov's stock has never been lower. But when they drafted Yakupov, so this doesn't make any sense. They have a ton of young forwards. Why don't they get themselves a defenseman? Well, you know what? I'm smarter than the Edmonton Oilers branch, Russ. That's all that proves. I would try to flip Nugent-Hopkins something like to the Panthers for their first round pick and Eric Branson. If you got to throw in a few other things to make it match up fine. I'm not saying Brandson's a be-all, end-all, but my thing of it is my goal for this draft would be to get Ekblad, you get Branson, you got Donnell Nurse in your organization. You get three pretty big defensemen. They're going to make it tougher to play against because in the West, having a ton of skilled forwards is great, but there's no defenseman to make those goals stand. Your transition game sucks because none of your defensemen can get out of your own zone. I'm not saying Branson's great at that, but Nurse should be okay with it, and Ekblad will be a very good all-around defenseman, I think, but you're going to have a very young defense core next year. And, there's going to be growing pains. But, unfortunately, there's no overnight fix. This team is in complete disarray. Again, you got to keep losing before you can win. I hate sounding like that, but this team isn't going to work. And you talk about trading Nugent-Hopkins. Hockey News wrote it up. He's 6'1", 180 pounds, essentially, going up against Joe Thornton or Ryan Getzlaf, the bigger centers out west every single night. That ain't going to work for him long term. Shipping to Florida, the East is a little bit easier to get around, and the forwards aren't as big, and then you're without a number one center. Well, you know what, you would have been without a number one center anyway, because I don't know if Nugent-Hopkins is that. I know he's only 20 years old, but there's still some things that maybe that's the best option for both teams. Then you get Florida's pick, you bring in a guy like Drysdale or Dowcole, a guy like that, and you start putting your own stamp on this organization. Because this is what I'd do. Hall is the one guy I'd hold on to. I like Taylor Hall's game. Hockey News criticized them for taking him over Sagan. He was a better player, plain and simple. You look at his pedigree. Everywhere he's played, he's been a winner, except the Edmonton Oilers, unfortunately. And I keep him around, and I try to build around a bigger, tougher blue line and bigger, tougher forwards, because that's how you're going to win out west. Having these 25 skilled forwards is going to do a damn thing. And then I try to do everything I could to get Yakupov off to a hot start and then flip him next year because I just don't think he fits that mold, and it's no use trading him now because his stock's never been lower. But you buy yourself some time, you ship him out, you get some pretty decent assets back, and then you can further the rebuild process. But right now, my thing would be big, tough defensemen to go up against Joe Thorntons and the Ryan Getzlafs of the world, because if you want to be a perennial playoff contender out west, you got to go through those guys. And I'm not saying the West is getting any easier, but with, Vancouver essentially throwing the towel in for the next couple of years, and Calgary also going through a rebuild process, the road getting back to the playoffs isn't as bad if you do it the right way. And what Edmonton's doing is not the right way. Anyway, that's on this episode of the Power Play with CJ on the Edmonton Oilers. What I would do if I was rebuilding the team. Stay tuned for more episodes throughout the season and beyond. Later, guys.